Well, anyway, some of you are having computer problems, and you were asking me if you could edit these on your cell phone. And that's exactly what I want you to do. I had made a video before about using your cell phone to edit. But here's a shot that I took of Odie, that's my dog, when I got home today from school. And as you can see, I kind of did it from a standing point of view, so I didn't line up the composition very well. But I used the portrait lens. Now, the portrait lens is not for shooting everything in portrait orientation, like not for shooting everything up and down, but it's a telephoto lens with a wide aperture. And look what it did to Odie's paws and his legs. It threw them out of focus. That wasn't necessarily what I was going for, but I wanted to use the portrait lens because the wide angle lens, the normal shooting lens, wouldn't work. But anyway, I'm gonna go to edit. And my phone has so many options for editing, but I want you guys to look at your phone and see what you have. But what I believe all phones have in their editing program and their editing software is the cropping tool. And we just went over cropping. Now, if you can see here what my phone tried to do, is it tried to auto-rotate the photo for me. And your phones will do that sometimes. And I don't want it auto-rotated because that makes it even worse. It might make it better sometimes, but mostly it makes it worse. So I'm gonna turn off the auto feature, and I'm gonna use this cropping tool to crop the photo myself. Now, I could go this way, okay? But now it looks like his hind legs, the back of him is missing. So I don't really like this that much. Again, not the best shot, but that's kind of good in a way because now I can show you what I could do with a photo that's less than ideal that I've taken, especially if I can't get another shot. So I'm gonna crop it like this, just leave a little space below his jowls, I guess they're called. There's a little bit of distraction at the bottom right below his nose where you can see his other leg. But I can crop it like that. And then as far as editing goes, on my phone, it looks a little bit too bright in the highlights. So I'm going to try to edit the brightness. So it just did auto brightness, but it didn't make the photo any better. So what I'm going to do is go to plus and minus exposure. And you'll have to look at the menus on your phones to see what you can do. Now what I've done here is I've actually darkened down the exposure some as if I shot it at a lower setting. And again, I was standing up shooting this, and he doesn't stand still for more than a few seconds at a time when I'm trying to take his photo. And that doesn't look too bad. Now, there are other things I can do on my phone besides crop and change exposure. Here's brilliance. Okay, and you can play with the sliders. You have to look and see what your phone has. And what it's doing here is it seems to be bringing out all of the details in the photo. Kind of like an HDR photo, if you've ever heard of that. But the highlights are still pretty washed out. In Photoshop, I could burn those highlights in to a point, but I've kind of lost them here. So you can also play with the highlights. Here I brought the highlights down some, and that's not too bad. It's not perfect like I'd want it to be, but I just want to show you the other options as well. You can play with the shadows. You can bring the shadows up or down, okay? Contrast, you could play with that, brightness, contrast. By the way, now this is brightness. I don't ever use all of these tools on a photo. Not that it couldn't be done. This sets the black point, the saturation, cuts color saturation. The more intense this is, the more color comes out in the photo. But what a lot of people do is do something like this, where now his nose looks pink and the furniture looks ridiculously orange and brown. So I don't even use saturation. I use what we call vibrance. Vibrance brings out the subtle colors in the image. Now, even this is too much. You can see colors starting to be there that shouldn't be there. So in this particular photo, I'm not going to add any vibrance to it. There's also warmth. There's tint. There's sharpness. There's definition. Noise reduction, that would take out some of the digital noise. And vignetting. So I want to show you vignetting because you're going to be learning that in Photoshop. If you want to put more interest toward the middle of your photo, you can use the vignette tool. Now this is vignetted all the way, and that's not too bad right there. It kind of focuses everything on his eyes and a little bit on his nose. And if I go the other way, you can actually vignette to get highlights on the edges, but that's only in certain situations. So I like kind of a dark vignette here, and I'm going to hit done. So I use several tools. Now, a lot of times when I go back and look at these on the computer, I go, what was I thinking? So when everything's working well, I will email this to myself and finish editing on the computer, or I won't edit the photo at all and edit it on the computer. But this is very important for you to see. A great thing to do to save you some time a lot of times is to hit the upload, or whatever you call that button, the box with the arrow. And then what I like to do is select email. And then I'm going to email this to myself. Okay, and then I'm going to put OD1. And then I'm going to hit the send button. But look what happens. And this is very useful. Pay close attention here. We have different file sizes: small, medium, large, and actual size. For my class, always use actual size. And then that'll send it there. Your phone might say full size image, something like that. Use the largest file size possible, students, because in this class, it's all about quality. And some of these photos will be printed out. And if we come back, this semester and or next semester, a lot of these photos will be printed out and put on the wall. So that is how you can edit on your phone.